Good day and welcome to the Ministry of Tourism special interview program, Tourism One-on-One, where we explore topical issues affecting the tourism sector as we continue to recover from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Kingsley Roberts, your host, and with me today is Group Director of Marketing and Sales for the Courtly Hospitality Group and President of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, CHTA, Mrs. Nicola Madden-Greig. Good to have you, Mrs. Madden-Greig.
Happy to be here. Definitely fun to be here with you, Kingsley.
Today, we continue our discussion on how the regional tourism sector has been rebounding from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mrs. Madden-Greig, tell us. So what do you think could be done to expedite the recovery process of the regional tourism sector?
I believe some of the headwinds which I spoke about, obviously we need to deal with. We do have a labor shortage issue, and that's a big challenge for the region. So we definitely need, and we have started to partner with regional institutions to have more training and, focus programs, internships, so that we can get that labor supply issue dealt with. That's a big critical part because, of course, hospitality requires people, and our people is really what drives the product. So that's one that is an immediate that we need to work on. The other element that I would think that would be good for us to kind of open up and help to drive is, again, looking at how we can forge better linkages. Sometimes tourism, doesn't move as fast as it can because there's still an argument, so to speak, that does tourism really drive the economy? And so we have competing interests at times. But I would like to say that it actually does. I mean, when tourism shut down across the world and then across the region, and we saw it right here in Jamaica, every single sector that didn't think they were in the tourism business waked up and realized that, I actually am. And since then, for Jamaica, and it's something I've proposed meeting with other persons in the region, we now have a quarterly meeting with the Bank of Jamaica where all our industries report in and talk about what's happening in the sector, what's the projections, looking at the forecast. So GHTA is at the table, PSOJ, Manufacturers Association, Bankers Association, yes. And there always is, everybody says what's happening with tourism. Before, we weren't the star of the show at all.
Right. But
everybody recognized, yes, and the potential. So I think that communication and getting that spread across various islands and destinations, that everybody recognize the potential of what tourism can do if done right. Part of the element sometimes is that, it's just a few people with big pockets that are the owners of the business. And I like to say no, because of the supply chain element of it and everything else that comes into the industry. We are even seeing in Jamaica a lot of young entrepreneurs that are getting into the business, right?
You have small and medium-sized
tourism entities. We had a conference here in June in Montego Bay with the OAS, and a study was done on, small and medium-sized tourism entities and how we can provide support. So CHTA is working with OAS on implementation. The shared economy, the Airbnbs of this world, that has changed the game a lot. So it's not just large hotels, and it's not just large attractions or experiences, not a big man thing at all. There is so much potential. I mean, just again, to give a Jamaica example, the pudding man in St. Anne, I'm sure everybody knows that. He was showcased by the JTB, and that man do have hand to sell pudding. People fly from all over the world and come and to experience it. So you can take any experience in Jamaica, whether it's birding, whether it's hiking, whatever it is, creates these unique experiences. That's what people want. They want to have unique experiences. They can stay in a hotel, yes, and then they can head out and have those experiences, or they can stay in a community, in a small villa or so on, and have those experiences as well. I always like to say we need to not look at it one or the other. There is always going to be that customer that's all-inclusive experience and just want sun, sea, and sand and want to lay down on the beach and do nothing else. But there is equally millions of people in the world that want to be out there, who want to be hiking, who want to be cycling. We have Discover Jamaica by Bike in Jamaica, who wants to go to Bonaire and see the flamingos, who wants to go to St. Lucia and see the pitons and the volcanoes, a live actual volcano. You can experience that in the Caribbean. I don't know if anybody, it's not dormant. I spent my honeymoon in St. Lucia, and you go there and the sulfur is bubbling up, and, we don't have that experience in Jamaica. So there is just so much out there, and there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurship. And that's a big push as well for us to say, Don't look at tourism as this big thing out there that I can't be a part of. There is real opportunity. And there are people all over the world, big countries, look at Dubai and all of these, Saudi Arabia, that is investing in tourism. They have oil, they have all these things, but they have recognized how much money they can make from tourism and how tourism can drive their economy. So if first world countries are taking tourism serious and using that as their vision and master plan for success, why are we in the Caribbean so nervous about it and still locked into this issue of, is tourism really something that can move us forward? And I think we need to get past that, really do the research. I mean, I shouldn't say do the research. The research has been done, but now look at it, look at the opportunities and see how individually you can benefit from it.
Okay. So how has the recovery process been panning out? Has it been even across the region?
No, not even across the region. You have some destinations that have recovered faster than others. Some of it has been linked to who changed their travel restrictions faster.
Okay.
The destinations that opened up and changed their travel restrictions were the immediate beneficiaries of that demand. Some are just opening up. Some still have a few restrictions, but the majority of the region has no restrictions at all. And I think as the winter season comes, that we will not have capacity to meet the demand. I think there is just going to be a really big surge for the winter. We have seen summer occupancies and projections for fall ahead of 2019. There are many destinations that have already blew past their 2019 figures, like Dom Rep, for example. Jamaica, I think we're almost there if we're not there yet. And so that's important. Some of the destinations have struggled because regional tourism is a big part of their market. So in Jamaica, it's the fourth largest market for us, but for some, it's 20 or 40% of their business. And because airlift has not come back properly in the region, that is really creating a problem for those destinations. And the US market has been the biggest provider of visitors because they were the first to reduce their protocols for allow their people to travel.
Right.
Canada is coming back and coming back strong. The UK is obviously coming back strong as well, but they restricted because of capacity issues at the airport, the amount of flights per day. So that has tampered the growth a bit. Latin America is also now starting to move. We had an opportunity to meet with the regional manager for COPA when I was in Cayman. And so there is a lot of energy and enthusiasm about the Caribbean.
So how soon do you expect the regional tourism sector to rebound fully?
I would say this winter, for sure.
Okay.
If we deal with all those little niggling issues, we can definitely rebound for winter.
So going into 2023, that's when you expect?
Yeah, 2023, definitely. I think we have the potential to do it. And if we do it right and we remove some of the challenges we have discussed, we could see definitely, as I said, some destinations have already surpassed 2019, which was a record year for tourism, record year for Caribbean tourism, have already surpassed. So we can, some people are already on a trajectory and are being very aggressive. And I think the world, and generally, if we continue to position the Caribbean as the place to be, especially for nearshore, the US market, Canada, etc., and then now long haul as we continue to grow. But there are new markets to discover. And that's something we have to pay attention to. Where else in the world can we touch and feel and get excited about Caribbean tourism? And if we have their airlift covered, then they will come.
Okay, so tell us about the small properties now. How have they been faring in terms of the recovery?
As I said, it's a little bit imbalanced. Some have done extremely well. Some have been very strategic in terms of the type of business they've gone after, and some are still in recovery mode. The good thing is, as CHTA and the hotel associations, we gave a lot of support to the small hotels, and I must compliment the larger properties. Again, it was benchmarking. So we had large properties that would do the work, do the homework as to what are the protocols, how do we get things done, and they just say to us, share.
Okay.
So those smaller properties and attractions and so on didn't have to spend money and time.
So they're sharing best practices.
Sharing best practices. And that's something we definitely want to continue. We like, the saying, all boats float. So at tide
A
rise,
rising tide
all
raises
boats
all
float.
ships. Yeah.
So that is a mantra that we want to ensure we keep in our mind. There is not a finite amount of tourists in the world. So we have to fight to get the 1 million of them. There is a very, very, very large amount of visitors.
It's not a zero-sum game.
Yes, we're not even touching the tip.
Right.
So if we can collectively be strategic and go after, instead of Barbados spending money to go to the same places, Jamaica spending money, Trinidad spending money, if we pool together some more resources, talent, ideas, and go into some of these new markets collectively, and that's where the whole multi-destination argument comes in, then it's a win-win for everyone.
Okay, so how have you been finding the role as CHTA president?
It's been quite good, actually. Challenging in terms of my time, my personal time. Thank God I have a husband who is understanding, and there's good support in my organization. They have given me flexibility that way. But it's something that I'm passionate about. I think just as I approach my presidency as GHTA president, I feel I approach it in the same way. This is kind of like national service. You don't go into this thing, for the glory. You go into this thing because you're passionate about it and you want to see change, real change in the region. Guess because I'm a Caribbean national and I have traveled so much in the Caribbean. I've seen and experienced and have friends and, family, a family that lives in other islands. It gives you a different perspective. So it's not just about you, or Jamaica, it's about the region and the potential of small Caribbean states that we could be first world. And there is nothing that should stop us. We have the talent. We have the talent in so many things, in sports, in art, in music. So why can't we have the talent in business and tourism? I think we can.
Excellent. All right. Great. That brings us to the end of our program. Thanks for joining us today, Mrs. Madden-Greig. It was really a pleasure having you on our program.
Same here for me, Kingsley.
Thanks to our viewers for tuning in. Take care and stay safe.